Coming up this week on the Just Lifestyle Show 810, Windows 11 is here. We've got Microsoft's announcement. I've got the bits we've got them running on here on a Surface Go, which I'll show you, and a virtual machine. I'm talking about the confusion over the minimum specs as well, which has caused a whole load of debate, and we'll be talking about that. And a bit of retro computing news and lots more. So let's get straight to Richard and Gary. Richard and Gary, good evening.
Good evening.
Good evening to a warm summer's evening, which is a very rare occasion, but very nice, very pleasant.
Maybe where you are, it's been raining here non-stop. So,
well, he's in the contra world, isn't he? He's the upside down in Manchester. Wherever there's anywhere else in the country, it's the other way in Manchester.
Tell you, my tomatoes, my aubergines, and my cucumbers are all growing very well.
Is that some sort of emoji innuendo there?
No. I've got a greenhouse full of things, all being still monitored by my switchbot. But it doesn't need to tell me when to water. I know because it's been so hot. But anyway, we're not here to talk greenhouses or gardening this week. Unlike the last few weeks, which have been relatively quiet, we've actually got things to talk about this week.
And
have we? Yes, goodness me. It's been a very interesting week.
Yeah, so we've got the good in the Windows 11 reveal, the bad, maybe the system requirements, and the ugly, how Microsoft communicate it.
That's a fairly good assessment, actually. Yeah, it's so this is the widely expected Windows 11 launch from last week, which kind of began badly because they had the stream and Panos Panay came on and began talking about how wonderful the thing was with a very haunted look on his face. And then the stream began to stutter, and I think was it Matt Veloso, the advisor for the technical advisor to Satya Nadella, pinged up saying, if it's not working for you, try YouTube, which of course is owned by Google, which is not a good start really. And oh dear, how poor old Microsoft. That's unfortunate. Little did we know how bad it was going to get later on. So, but they showed off Windows 11, and it was pretty much everything that we've been led to believe or to expect. Although there were some surprises there. I think probably most notable being the Android stuff, Gary.
Yeah, which we sort of kind of hinted at last week when I was talking about Miguel de Casa's tweet out. And it's all his fault apparently. All the issues of Miguel's fault. No, hard to blame him, but there is some. Because some of the reasons for some of the things we'll discuss later are to do with the way they've implemented the Android emulator. But it's great. I mean, it's a really good Android emulator. It's using Intel Bridge technology to make it fast and snappy, and it can actually load stuff from an app store, not Google's app store, but Amazon's one. But actually, that's quite good because the Amazon one's getting pretty complete now. A lot of devs are now moving to Amazon. And there was some sort of chat going on in the dev community last week about whether this actually makes the Amazon App Store a huge player in the market now, and whether it's something you'd actually support rather than the Google Play Store, especially with people like Huawei and on potentially supporting the Amazon App Store as well. Going forward, so that was an interesting thing. But yeah, I mean, it looks a really good emulator. It just runs stuff basically. It's a subsystem again. It's the Windows subsystem for Android, or could have been called that. But it's basically similar, using the same sort of technology as the Windows subsystem for Linux is using, which it's going to make it a very good Android implementation on Windows. It's not going to be like the emulators at the moment. The dev community is very excited about this. We haven't quite worked out whether we're actually allowed to deploy to these the subsystem yet, because at the moment it's talking about apps running standalone in Windows as though they're full citizens of the Windows ecosystem. So you wouldn't have a virtual machine to deploy to as such, or an emulator to deploy to. But whether that's optional is possible to just deploy to Windows as an APK and you have it run if there's any side loading going on. The details aren't there yet for that, but.
I was going to say, I mean, what details do we have? Because in the demonstration, it was very, very quick. You know, if you blinked, you could miss it.
There's very little. I mean, they've said it's Intel Bridge technology. That the speed looks really good. they've said it's going to be on that app store, but that's basically where we've got. We haven't got much else beyond that. There were some bits. There was some mention of it on the developer event which followed, but not much. But yeah, I mean, if it did work well, it would be very exciting for a lot of developers, because it would get away from trying to run some of the Google emulators on Windows, which is never a pleasant experience. There's lots you have to do to get that working. So yeah, really interesting stuff. And as you say, it was the one thing which didn't leak. Although
Yep.
it was
Well,
heavily hinted at, but it was.
so I guess that, and also things like I presume the arrival of Teams inside Windows 11 means that is this the beginning of the end of the road for Skype, do you think?
Yeah. I mean, I guess that didn't leak, though I actually heard about it, so I'm not quite sure where I heard about it from. And it wasn't an MVP conversation. I heard of it outside, but I definitely think that is the end of Skype as we know it, being supported in the way it has been. I mean, they've said it's going to survive and it's going to be out there. That's actually one. It's really weird. It was the one thing the guys I'm working with at the moment got really upset about. Skype.
That's because nobody likes Teams, really and truly. No one likes Teams. It
can work really well. I mean, I've got a couple of projects at the moment where it's actually working extremely well. But I'm not sure about this new approach they're putting in Windows 11. But it's there. It's a first class. Teams is now a first class citizen of Windows 11. Whether that actually did, what do you think about that from an antitrust point of view?
Well, I was going to say that is a tricky one. I mean, it's one of those interesting things, shoving Teams there, because obviously Microsoft has got various antitrust things running against it from the likes of Slack regarding Teams. So I don't know if that's going to add more fuel to the fire or what. I mean, I guess if you were Microsoft, you could turn around and say, well, Apple's been putting in sort of FaceTime and iMessage into macOS for a long time, but they're still quite a niche player. So I don't know. I mean, it's I guess it will just feed into it, but probably by the time the lawyers have dealt with it, we'll be on to Windows 14 anyway. So these things seem to take a very long time to grind through both the US courts and the European courts. So we'll see. I guess, Gary, the other one thing that I also hadn't seen coming. I mean, we'd heard about the overhaul of the Microsoft Store, which is long overdue, but the change to the conditions for developers, that seems to be quite major as well.
Yeah. I mean, in a positive way.
Yeah, definitely.
I mean, you can basically put stuff in the store and not get paid Microsoft any money, which is remarkable in this industry.
And also be able to sort of do charging through your own stores, as I understand it. So
before you could always put free stuff in and not get obviously charged any money, but you couldn't actually then charge for it outside the store. But you can now.
And then of course that's completely opposite to how Apple. I mean, it's a real shot across the bows for Apple, because who operate in a completely different way.
Yeah, indeed. So yeah, I think that was fair. I mean, there've been hints that might come within the developer community, but only hints. And I think that was really positive news. It's pushing Windows back to where it was before, where it was the platform you, as a developer, you wanted to go for because you got a lot of money out of it. Whereas it became difficult to deploy stuff to Windows. Effectively.
And you can deploy whatever deploy a tool you want, can't you? You're not restricted to UWP or anything in particular. You can whatever you want. Win32. I think what's the I forgot.
I think
the
tool
for live.
I think you need to start playing the R tune whenever you mention UWP. Just UWP.
Yeah, I know things like I think I can't remember the studio tool that you use for live streaming and stuff that we've used in the past when we did the Windows Mixed Reality Steam. You can download it from there. It's executable OW something Studios. I forgot what it's called now. But anyway, it's in the store now, which it couldn't do before. So
is Microsoft going to curate this stuff that's in the store, or is it a free for all? I mean, how is that working?
We don't think they've really
looks like Gary there.
To be announced.
I'm looking at you, Gary.
Yeah, but that is the thing. It's not what they've basically said is to get a listing, you probably still have to go through the curation process, but it's not a serious creation process at the moment. So yeah, that's an interesting one. I mean, but they have basically said you can put anything up you want, which tends to say it's not going to be.
And of course, in theory, we're only maybe 4 months away from when this is going to be released Assume of course you got the hardware that can run it. And I think was it yesterday that the first public preview dropped on the dev channel?
Yes, yeah, that's right. Yeah, it's I've got running on my Surface Go, and actually I can show you. I've got it on VM as well. But I wanted to show the Surface Go. I mentioned I think a couple of weeks ago that my Surface Go is really sluggish. So I installed it today and then wiped it. But it's super quick now and responsive just by doing that PC reset. But I like the little rotation animations you get on this now as well. But the whole thing is very responsive. It works really well. It's really nice and quick and smooth.
But there's no more tablet mode.
Well, tablet mode, yeah. It still is a thing, kind of. I did a video of this afternoon, actually.
But live tiles in. Where's the live tiles?
Yeah, live tiles are gone. But in tablet mode, you've got your swiping from the left to get the widgets. Do you remember when we said, why is Microsoft so keen on using interests? And we said there's got to be another reason other than just for Windows 10. Well, now we know, because that's what this is, isn't it? But then you've also got swiping the other way. You've got Action Center. You've got the 3-finger gesture on here for closing and open applications. What is different is you don't get automatically in full screen when you're in tablet mode anymore. So you actually I'm running it in a window wasn't in full screen, but it by default it Windows. So you've lost that mode, but then you've got this 3-finger action as well to dismiss it and things like that. So there is kind of a tablet mode, and I would say I've been using this evening before I came up, and actually really quite like this in tablet mode. It's rather nice and much more polished than Windows 10 was. So I think it's quite nice. And I actually like the new start menus. I've got it running on here on a virtual machine. I don't know if you can see that. Yeah, there we go.
There it is.
Yeah, so I've got it running on this virtual machine here, and it runs perfectly fine on here. This is a machine that I haven't done resets on, but it's been chugging away for some time with various Windows builds. But yeah, it's actually not bad. It's nice and performant, I think is the word. But the Surface Go certainly works really well on here. So, I'm actually currently installing it on an Atom-based, that Lenovo tablet that I've got. Anyway, I'm going to give that a try.
Yeah, because with the dev channel, you can install it on anything.
You can, yes.
Yeah, so
we'll come back to that in a minute.
We'll get back to that. Yeah, I mean, I've been playing with it for the last day or so, and again, I have to say, it's again, obviously you have to be in the dev channel of the Windows Insider program, so just the usual health warnings apply. It is beta software, in fact, I'd say it's almost alpha in places. But yes, I mean, I've found certainly things like the start menu hasn't caused me any problems at all, because I can still just do Control Escape and then start typing, and everything works. And the bits that I can see you've got up there things like the personalization and some of the settings screens have been tweaked, and they're nice. Although it didn't take me very long to tumble down into a Windows 7 screen. It was not long at all. I was trying to uninstall some stuff and found myself in the programs and features screen relatively quickly, which did not look like Windows 11. It was like, hello again, my old friend. It's you again. So, so it's still got quite a few rough edges, at least the ones that aren't rounded. And yeah. But on the whole, it looks nice. I'm running it on my XPS 13, which is an 8th generation Intel Core i7, which passed all the tests. But as you say, on the dev channel, you can run it on pretty much anything really that runs Windows 10 at the moment.
Yeah, at the moment, yeah. So I think I like the new sounds as well, and it certainly looks a lot more consistent. I know they've not finished yet, but all the menus seem to be pointed in the right direction, as in, unlike Windows 10, where I found loads of different ones.
I mean, I'd say yes, but as I say, I did very quickly hit Windows 7, or what looked like Windows 7. So I think they've still got a bit of work to do around that. Icons and things are nice, the font is nice, but as I say, it doesn't take a lot of scratching to find some very unpleasant things lurking behind the scenes, which I think is unfortunate. But then again, this is still a dev channel build, so I'll cut it some slack. But they have only got a few months left to fix it.
Yeah, I think that's probably one of the things that's quite surprising is they have a really fairly short time frame to get this tested.
Yeah, well, I mean, it is. I guess it is in theory not much more than a skin over Windows 10, though. Surely.
I think so, but there's a lot to it. I noticed, going around when you dig around in the settings, there's a lot of new settings, and there's a lot of things that they've done with it. And then I guess you've got all the store stuff as well. I found in terms of performance, I would say certainly on the Surface Go, which, like I said, it was running really slow on Windows 10, and it wasn't any slower on 11. I'd say it's probably a little bit better. And then I did that refresh, and it was nice and smooth. So I think the system requirements actually probably less than Windows 10. It wouldn't let me install this VM. This is on dynamic memory, this VM, so it was sort of taking 1.7 meg or 1.7 gig during
1.7 meg. Oh, bless you.
Yeah, thinking of Spectrum there. Yeah, so it wouldn't let me install Windows 11 until I upped the base limit of the dynamic memory to 4 gig, which I did, and then I just dropped it back down again, and it works perfectly fine. So, yeah, I think we'll come back to the system requirements, but I actually think it looks pretty polished, and it certainly, I certainly like it anyway. One thing it has done is in the old thing, it's brought some enthusiasm and interest back to Windows. We had this with Windows 7, I think, really. When we got to the end of Windows 7 lifespan, we just got bored with it, really, and got used to everything. And it was stable and good for my day job in the corporate world. For us, it was getting a bit boring, and this Windows 11 brings us something new, which is nice. Yeah. And we've got a new Windows button as well, and a new Windows icon, haven't we, as well? And these little animations and things like that, it's hard to see on the virtual machine, but they are quite nice, these little ones. And like I said, the rotations and things like that. So they've just got a lot more polish. It looks better, and especially as maybe that's not that much useful, this the widget thing yet. Anyway, I do think it looks nice, and it's a nice design. Whether it's enough to appease people that miss live tiles, I'm not sure. So yeah, overall, this new build, the build looks good, and I think it's missing. What's it missing currently? The Android support. There was another big thing.
Teams as Android. It's the major thing is it's missing around Android and Teams, and I'd say polish in places. But as you say, you're quite right. It is certainly an attractive look. It's an attractive looking thing. And I think anyone who is concerned about the start menu will come away pleasantly surprised by just how nice it is to use.
Yeah, and I think a couple of people said to me, "Oh, it's not as sophisticated as the start menu in Windows 10. You could create group folders and things like that." But I think the answer to that is probably, well, who did that? and even if you did do it, how often did you use it? And I when I first got Windows 10, I spent ages doing them now. But if I look on my Surface, they're just a jumble around of shortcuts, really.
Yeah, I mean, I virtually never use this. I mean, I've not used the start menu in that way for a long time. As I said, I normally have to just key in the app that I want, or I've got it pinned to the taskbar and just shrink my workflow down, because if I want docs and things in Word, I'll go into Word and then the docs are all there. So that whole concept of having multiple applications, perhaps maybe that's just not part of the modern workflow.
Yeah, that's right. So I think if you could watch the presentation, it was good. It was a little bit syrupy at times, but it's a marketing thing, isn't it? So and
it stalled and it stuttered and it didn't work very well, the stream.
I actually watched it on Twitter. The link, there was a live stream on Twitter. The actual
worked well, yeah.
It worked great. And
I'd say basically it worked great everywhere except for Microsoft itself, which is not really very good. I mean, if only Microsoft had some kind of scaling, cloud-based streaming thing that could do these things. I guess perhaps they could use AWS. I don't
know. But so I think the presentation was okay, and it on the initial impressions, it looks good. I couldn't see anything major that would want to not want me to upgrade everything. but
And
I can't upgrade everything.
All went wrong.
Yeah. And in fact, what Microsoft did is, I've got this loaded here on the VM as well, is they released this little PC health tool.
Yeah, they
where you
did.
can check to see where your machine runs.
Briefly, anyway.
You can't do it on a VM because it just does that and just says you can't do it. But I can run it on my Surface. But it's not very helpful. Well, the initial version was, and in fact, since then the tool's now been withdrawn completely, hasn't it?
Yeah, so this is kind of where they kind of loaded the shotgun and aimed at their feet, because having gone through the whole Windows 11 presentation, it all looked great. You know, it was some nice surprises with Android in there, nice surprises with the Microsoft Store. It was all going well, I thought, and then the PC health checker began to be used, and people began to realize that, well, one, it doesn't give you the most helpful messages when it finds that there's an issue with your PC that might stop Windows 11 installing once it goes live. And then worse than that, this frankly bizarre list of hardware requirements came out, some of which I think made sense. The TPM module, for example, for the trusted computer stuff, which I think that's always been in the background and approaching at some point. There was also the requirement for, I think, the UEFI secure boot as well being turned on, so that understood too. But it was the CPU stuff which I think has caused most people to have a bit of a moment when they've seen. I think it's pretty much. I mean, just looking at the Intel example, I think it's is it pretty much anything that's earlier than the 8th generation, so 7th generation and earlier, aren't going to work. At least that's how it is now. They have rolled that back since the announcement, I think, in reaction to the shock and horror, because of course effectively they're rolling out any machine that's more than about 3 years old or so, and even worse, they're selling a 7th generation machine themselves in the form of the Surface Studio 2, which is their flagship machine. So you think,
but that Surface 7 doesn't, that chipset doesn't have Intel Bridge technology.
Well, I take that, but it's it's almost.
You won't be able to run the Android apps. I mean, it's which I think is something they could communicate quite well, and I think that's what's going to happen. I think they're going to roll it back and say yeah, you can run it on.
And I said, but all things won't work.
You won't get Android apps, basically.
Yeah,
I think that will be.
But the thing is, that's not what they've done. You know, they've said things like, well, it's, you know, if you run these chips, I mean, if they were as blunt to say, you know, if you haven't got this chip, then Android apps won't run. What they're doing is saying things like, well, you know, you have a 99.8% crash-free experience if you use these chips. I think, does that mean the older chips are rubbish? Just the whole thing, the communication was just really bad around it. And of course, now they have begun saying, we're going to look to find if there's any Intel 7th generation and AMD Zen 1 devices that are going to work. But I think if they came out, Gary, and just said, you know what, these don't have Intel Bridge, Android's not, and so Android can't work, that would be, I think, a much better and clearer approach than what's happened, which is all. I mean, you kind of feel for the Windows team, because, you know, 11's appeared, there are some fantastic things in it, and then this has happened, which is just oh dear.
And I thought I'd be spending the next half hour talking about soft and hard flaws, but that's all been scrapped as well. So I did a full article on soft and hard flaws and what that means, and that was scrapped. So this was. They had the minimum requirements as a soft and hard flaw initially. So it being, if you met the soft requirements, but not the complete requirements, you could install it with a warning. Or if you didn't meet the hard requirements, then you couldn't install it. But they dropped the soft one completely. So, which is the way that's working for insiders. If I've installed it on my Surface Go, but it does tell you might not be supported because you're running on incompatible hardware. So. I suppose they want to make it clear and simple, but I don't know. They've made it muddy and complicated instead of clear.
I think
I think if it's a security reason, then they just need to come out and say that, you know, 7th Gen 1s have a certain security flaw, and, you know, whatever.
I also think that they're taking a colossal risk here as well, because one of the, you know, the really big things about Microsoft is that, you know, the operating systems run on all kinds of hardware. and they've had this backwards compatibility crown for a long time. But here it's like, well, yeah, it's not going to work unless your hardware is about 3 years old, which is, it just doesn't feel. I mean,
surprising.
And in truth, most people, when they upgrade Windows, they'll normally upgrade it as part of buying a new PC. So it's not, it's not going to be an issue for the majority of people, but it will be an issue for a vocal minority, I think. And it's whereas if you look, I mean, for example, I was a few months ago, I was complaining bitterly that that Apple had pulled support for my old Mac Mini, which was 2012, and said, well, it's okay though, because I've just boot camped to my Windows 10, and that's fine. And that's oh heck, that won't work either for Windows 11. Although again, Windows 10 there'll be support through to 2025, I think, for most mainstream versions, and of course the LTSC versions are going to go on for longer than that. So it's not the end of the world. It's just not a good look.
You'd probably be able to run Windows 11 in a parallels virtualization.
Yes, I suppose so.
Because they don't have any restrictions on virtual machines.
Well, I'm now running a M1 Mac, and I guarantee you nothing works on that at all. So
one thing which has got me, I mean, Ian's got all these lovely devices which are unsupported hardware, and he's able to run it all on them. What happens when we go live with Windows 11? Do they suddenly stop working on those?
Yes.
Yeah, it does.
Yes, that's what they said. Yeah.
Yep.
You potentially you'll have to wipe your machine back to Windows 10 because
that's the current plan.
That's so my Surface Go.
But again, is that going to really happen though? I mean, because having seen I mean, we've seen some backpedaling or already. I think is that really going to happen? Because if that is the case, there'll be some very grumpy people in the Insider program.
Yeah, it's surprising. I mean, I understand them giving the warning, but and I'm happy with the risk. I'm quite happy to wipe the machine again if needed. But it'd be a bit of a shame to say when I've perhaps run it for 6 months, provided a load of feedback that's helped make the product better, and then at the end of the day go, right, okay, thanks for that. You can wipe your machine now. But it's a bit strange. The Surface Laptop 2 fully supported though, so that's okay. It has got me thinking of. I'm always running out. Well, I've run out of space on my Surface Laptop 2 for storage, and I'm running with an external hard drive, which is a bit of a pain for doing all the VM stuff. So I was thinking of maybe to shift everything around and get a new Surface Laptop to do as my primary machine, and then use this one for Insider programs, but they're awfully expensive when you look at them.
Yes, I mean, I've got to buy myself a new laptop because I've got one machine here which is okay, but every other machine I've got in the house, and there's probably about 5, aren't going to work.
And you'd think I would be on the cutting edge, but I haven't got a single machine in this house which actually works.
Yeah, I mean, I've been bitten. It's probably mainly CPU generation, because a lot of machines have had TPM stuff in them for some time and secure, but it's a CPU generation that's getting me, because even machines I bought about 3 or 4 years ago, as you say, Gary, they lack the Intel bridge stuff, so they're just not going to work with the the way Windows 10 wants them to. Although, that said, how many of them would actually run Android apps on? I mean, maybe there could be a choice to say you can't run Android apps on this PC. But would that cause more confusion?
Yeah, and there may be. I mean, what I kind of think what is happening in the background is they're all frantically running around saying this Android thing we put in at the last minute because Miguel asked us to. I don't know if he actually did do that, but it did seem to be a fairly last minute thing, and we did it by using Intel Bridge technology because that was the quick and easy way to do it. Is there another way we could do this? I suspect that would.
Yeah.
I mean,
even my gaming machine that I use with the music one, it's a 7th gen one, so it won't run, even though it's got loads of CPU and space, and it's got graphics cards, and I do gaming stuff on it. But can't run it.
This might finally kill my old Asus. I've an Asus, which I think was probably a 1st generation Intel Core i7. It's that old. And that's got an SSD and I think 16 gigs of RAM, and it's kept running for, wow, that must be almost 10 years now. This could be the end for it.
Yeah.
Now there must be a workaround for Intel Bridge technology, because obviously they have announced that you'll be able to run Android apps on AMD processors if they meet the
right. Okay.
So Yeah, so there's got to be something out there.
Or again, the simple thing is to say, you know what, your hardware doesn't meet the requirements for these particular functions in Windows. You can run games and things which won't work unless you've got a suitable NVIDIA card or ATI card in there. So I don't know why they can't do something similar for this, because that would solve the issue at stroke and say, well,
and I did
sorry.
find an article which came from India, so I'm not sure how reliable this is, because there are some strange things come out of some of the Indian newspaper sites saying that Intel have said that British Technology will support all x86 processors.
Okay.
So
the plot thickens. Well, there's only 4 months. There's only 4. Well, yeah. I mean, in 4 months' time, we shall know.
I was chatting with Tom Warren from Verge on Twitter, and he's kind of thinking it's to do with a minimum baseline security that they can guarantee in the 8th gen and upwards, and he thinks it's around security rather than performance, which would make sense. Is why, because we know it works well on older devices, but you can't guarantee that security because of the Spectre and the other vulnerabilities.
Spectre meltdown. Yeah, I guess so, but.
That's his theory, I think.
Yeah, I think that's likely. I mean, but there was a definite correlation between the chipsets they said and the ones which Intel had originally said supported British technology.
Yeah.
Interesting as well. After watching before watching the announcement, I thought I'll try and do a helpful video of how to get your machine ready for Windows 11. I presumed incorrectly that it would just be an in-place upgrade. Well, correctly, it is an in-place upgrade, but I just assumed that any Windows 10 device would get it, to be honest, any 64-bit one anyway. But and then I saw the announcement and I saw the little PC checker, so I just redid the video, included the PC checker, and just the magic of Google or YouTube's algorithms. It's had something like 23,000 views in the first day, whereas another video that I would have spent ages on and a load of time editing gets a few hundred. This one got 23,000. So yeah, and once again, the rule of not putting something that you'd spend very little time on and not spend to worry about too much gets all the views, and ones you spend all the time on don't.
Yeah, I just want to track back quickly to what you said about security there. There's a lot of pre-8th generation Intel laptops in the enterprise. I don't think Microsoft can turn around and say they're not secure, so we won't support them. They'd be very careful how you message that. That's a really high risk message to put out there.
Yes. Yeah, you've got to be careful. Yeah.
Wow.
Yeah, that's always the thing. You can't. Like when you go whenever you release a new product, you can't really go too hard on your old product, can you? Because it's, in fact, especially with say something like Windows 11, because you're still selling Windows 10.
Well, exactly.
You can't say it's insecure on 7th gen chips, but you can say that the new security baseline is 8th gen and higher if you want.
Wow. So as I said, the foot shooting machine is armed and ready.
I'm so glad they did that as well, because in the last few months we've had so little Windows things to talk about, and
we could have a lot.
And then Twitter just like blew up on Friday. Like I said, I was talking to Tom Warren and various other people, and my tweet thing was going all day on Friday talking about about this, and I created 2 articles, one that replaced the other one very quickly. But still, it was great to have something to write about, to talk about, and like we're talking about now as well. So I think maybe it was this very, very clever marketing tool from someone at Microsoft. Said, we've got a brilliant strategy. This is how we'll get people talking. We'll contradict ourselves multiple times and put an arbitrary limit on there. You watch them talk about this.
Yes, I mean it's almost as if they'd sent out a notification to every Android phone saying test case 1.
Yeah. Yes, that would work. I'm just doing a bit deep dive into Intel, Bridge. Some other articles I've been finding. It looks like basically where we are at the moment is Intel are still working on the bridge technology. It's not fully developed yet. It currently works on certain versions of their chipsets, but they have said I can confirm they have said that they are trying to work on it for all x86 based systems. So maybe we'll be able to roll this back gradually as Intel work on it.
Could be. It's yeah. It's such a colossal marketing. I really feel bad for the Windows team here, because they've done some really good stuff with Windows 11, and it's just been dominated by this. This is quite sad.
Yeah, it is. It's a shame, but then yeah, I'm really glad that we've had something new to talk about as well.
Although you can see that if you're using Windows and ARM, the full-on ARM 664 version of Office has appeared in the beta channel as well.
Yeah. Yes, there's a few little hoops you've got to jump through, I think, haven't you? But yeah,
you do, yeah. And it's
there, yeah.
And it's using the is it called the something compatibility? I think it's so it can still access the old x64 emulation. So all the add-ins and things will all still work. The ecosystem still works, but the core apps, I think Word, Excel, PowerPoint, Outlook, OneNote, I think they're all 64-bit ARM. So if you are using an ARM device running Windows 11, which means you're already living on the edge, then you can also join the beta channel, I think. And as you say, jump through a few hoops. Make sure you uninstall the 32-bit version first, and it will now pull down the ARM 64 version, which it's quicker. It can handle bigger documents. It's just a nice experience, really. I mean, most ARM native things are much nicer on Windows ARM devices.
And talking about Office as well, I've forgotten about this today, and I don't know if this is new. When I reset my Surface Go, obviously it removed all my applications because I did the reset, but keep my personal files. So my Camtasia Studio got removed and so on. But Office didn't need reinstalling, and I was expecting to have to reinstall Office, but Office was there. In fact, it was pinned to the start menu and to the taskbar at the bottom. Is that new, or is that a Windows 11 thing? I've not tried a reset for a long while. So I'm not sure.
The installer's been there for a while. The Office, when you do a Windows 10, it's part of the out-of-box experience now to have that little Windows Office.
Of course, yeah.
It doesn't. But you won't necessarily have Office there. It's just the installer for Office.
Well, they were installed, so I haven't. So I've not installed Windows Office on here today. But I did the reset, and they were all pinned, and I just fired up Word, and it carried on from where I left off. It lost my blog template, but apart from that, all the files were there and everything.
Yeah, I guess if they're already installed, it's just going to pull them back down again, because it's Office 365. You've got rights to it, and you can get it.
Yeah. So that was quite. So really, for the only thing I had to reinstall, I had to re-sign into OneDrive. I had to reinstall the Camtasia Studio and my GIF. Screen to GIF type things, but all the Office stuff sorted itself out, and all the Microsoft applications effectively were fine. So it was a very easy experience doing that PC reset, and I did it from the cloud as well. I'll tell you what was funny though, because I've seen a lot of people complaining about the machines wouldn't run Windows 11. So I had my Spectrum out. I'll share.
Oh yeah,
I saw that.
Yeah, and when you do something, So that's what I tweeted. It's just a picture of the Spectrum with saying you can't run. You can continue with Sinclair Basic. But have you seen how many replies I've got on this thing? They just go on and on and on. And in fact, my Twitter replies are almost useless at the moment, because these are coming through like every 5 minutes. I'm getting a notification about this now.
Because all we're seeing is your calendar at the moment.
Oh, I'm not saying let's bring that over. Let's pop that. Yes, there we go. Yeah. So, and there's all the comments, and I never get this much engagement. You know what? Like I said, you spend time crafting a tweet and an image, and you get like 2 replies or 0 responses. Well, this one I spent 2 minutes typing this program into the Spectrum Basic, and then what was interesting was that the tweets are split between people laughing about Spectrums and reminiscing about it, and people saying you need to enable TPM 2.0. A lot of people told me to enable TPM 2.0. So thanks for that, TPM 2.0 people. But I'm not sure whether you can get that for the Spectrum, if you can get one with the Edge connector that fits on the back. I did get I don't know how you can find these. I did get some Acorn Electron. Somebody said, "Oh, you should have got a BBC Micro because they run ARM processors." I think I got this one. There you go. There's one that a Radio Shack TRS-80.
Mm-hmm.
That's one for you there, Richard.
TRS-80. No, TI-994A.
Yeah, I know you. I know it's. Somebody put about, I think it was Electron one, saying no, but you Electron Basic is better or something, and that'll annoy the Spectrum users or whatever. So we have the old rivalries coming out. It's great to see. But yeah, I'm amazed how little time I spent on doing that. I really wish I could work out how this works sometimes, and perhaps I would be a social media expert then, and not.
You too can be an influencer, exactly.
Yeah. If I've ever figured this out.
I mean, in this case, perhaps you could influence Microsoft to just, oh, what have they done? It's when people start laughing that's when I think it gets particularly bad. It's like, it's I mean, it's all fun and games, but you shouldn't really be laughing at this. It's at that point you think, oh, I wish people weren't laughing at it.
But yeah.
I just, as I said, I just feel bad for the Windows team that this has happened. It's so unnecessary.
Yeah, it is. Yeah, especially when they've got a great thing to talk about as well, and then people are talking about that. But it wouldn't be Microsoft if they didn't. It's taken 3 blog posts and. I should say as well, this PC health tool that we were talking about before, that's been pulled now completely, hasn't it? So you can't even install it anymore.
That's right. Yeah. And also, I think was it up on GitHub? Somebody put up a much more useful tool that actually told you exactly why your PC was not compatible, which I think is actually hopefully Microsoft will just simply look at that and say, okay, let's do that then, because it's. I mean, I've used the GitHub. I think it's called. Is it called Why Not Win 11? I think is a tool. I don't know if it's been pulled yet or it's been changed in some way, but last time I used it, it did explain quite clearly what the issue was with my machines, and that was I hadn't spent enough money. Spend more money, buy more hardware from vendors.
Yeah, exactly. And I think because the TPM thing was definitely because I posted a picture from the Surface Go saying it can't, it doesn't support Windows 11, and everybody kept saying to me enable TPM 2.0, which I thought I'm sure it's enabled, and I checked and it was, but it turns out it's a CPU generation. But that tool that you mentioned does tell you that as well. Yeah. Actually, they did update the PC Health tool before they pulled it, and then it did tell you that it was a processor issue, but it's too late. It's gone now.
Yeah. I'd imagine there's some very frantic meetings being had. I mean, I just wonder if they simply misjudged based on the telemetry, because they obviously get telemetry back, so they must know what's out there. I mean, I was seeing figures being bandied about where there's hundreds of millions of PCs which aren't going to work with this, and so presumably they must have known this. They must have known something. But
yeah, and like you said, if they'd come during the presentation said, we know you'd all love Windows 11, but we decided to drop backwards compatibility, draw on a line under things. If you've got anything other than 2-year-old machine, forget it. Don't worry. We'll carry on supporting Windows 10 till 2025. That would have probably ended the discussion, apart from people getting upset about the fact, but it would have stopped certainly the first 24 hours of people all trying all different edits and things like that to try and get it. But one thing you can be sure of is that there will be ways around this, but whether that's a good thing or a bad thing.
I've seen some registry hacks already that look utterly horrific. Registry hacks to turn off updates and turn off TPM checks. You think, don't do that. Just don't do that. They're there for a very good reason.
Yeah, and that's the one thing that I was considering, because I need to get a extra storage. I was considering getting a laptop 4, but then there's some of the things in Windows 10 that Surface don't support, and you've got to think that they will, like the 120 Hz dynamic refresh rates and things like that, and the new pen gesture, the new pen haptic feedbacks and things like that. So I have a feeling there'll be some new Surface hardware taking advantage of these new features. So I was wondering, do I hold off now and wait to see if in October we get something?
I can promise you one thing: the Surface Studio 2 is going to be going quite quickly.
Yes,
it's going to be pulled very fast. They call it the Surface Studio 2 Plus, perhaps.
Yeah, I noticed. I don't know. It was just me, but I couldn't. I was trying to price up the Surface Laptop 4, and I couldn't get a price from Microsoft. It just didn't give me the option to configure it. I could do all the other products, but not the Laptop 4. But that's the new one, isn't it? So it's not that it's.
Yeah, I'm not sure that's due to be replaced yet. Yeah, I mean, I think if I was to name one product that's due for an update, it would actually be Surface Studio, the Surface Studio, which is that is an old bit of kit now. I mean, it was already fairly old when it turned up. It's and now, of course, even Microsoft themselves are saying it's very old. But Laptop 4, that's very recent still. So I wouldn't thought we'd be seeing a new one of those until probably. It
might just be a chip shortage that's an issue with that.
Yes, that's true.
I did notice that the Surface Go 2 and the new Surface Go Laptop Go, they all support Windows 11. In fact, on Microsoft site, they show you which do and don't.
Yeah, I mean, I think it's only it's only the very, in terms of things they're selling now, I think it's only the Surface Studio 2 that doesn't support it. But things like Surface Laptop 1 doesn't work. Basically, anything that's more than 3 years old is just not going to work.
Yeah. So the question is now: do I get a laptop, Surface Laptop, or a Surface Pro 7, or do I wait and get a Surface Pro 8 in October? I'm probably going to wait, but. Yeah.
I think I'm going to wait until October and just see what happens because I'm not sure how many of my PCs I need to change really. I mean, my Windows 11 laptop is, bless it, fully compatible, but my laptop that is only 12 months older is not, and it's that kind of dividing line. And as you say, what I don't want to do is to run the risk of having to nuke it back to Windows 10. Arbitrarily. I mean, I mean, again, being a Windows insider, I'm quite used to nuking laptops and wiping them down and reinstalling them. But I'd rather do it because it's been a duff build as opposed to because someone at Microsoft has flicked a switch to say, "Sorry, no more builds. No more builds for you now," and then it stops working. So I think I'll wait and see what happens and do no knee-jerk purchases now.
Yes, I think you're right. Yeah, my music PC, that I'm not touching that one because that. It's a very finely balanced set of configurations that to keep that working. Whereas the Surface Go, just a couple of apps, don't mind doing that one.
And also, I'd quite like a machine that can run my Oculus Quest 2 at a higher refresh rate.
Oh yeah, there you go. So that's your motivation.
That's my excuse. I'm sticking with it.
Yeah. Well, we won't be seeing anything like that at where we're going to at the weekend.
That's true.
So hopefully, hopefully this weekend we're going to some of the Cambridge computer museums. So I will be taking various audio and video equipment with me to see what we can get. I'm not sure whether we'll have a segment for this show next week or we'll just get video and I'll put the video on the YouTube channel. But we'll certainly be capturing some stuff from down there. We probably all wearing masks, so it'll be the first time we've.
I think definitely you're wearing masks. Unfortunately, yes. It's we're still in the midst of it.
Yeah, but we will definitely have some content on there on various places, and really the aim of our road trip is to highlight the excellent work these computer museums are doing, and difficult times for them. So that's our job, isn't it? To remind people they're there and show how interesting they are. And I'm really looking forward. I've never been to the Computer History Museum. I've been to the other one at Bletchley, but I'm really looking forward to going to seeing those. And I love a bit of retro computers.
That's right. Yes. So that's right. So we're going to the Centre for Computing History in Cambridge. That's on Saturday, and then Sunday is the National Museum of Computing at Bletchley Park. And I think, if I know, with both of those places, under current restrictions, you do have to pre-book in advance as well. Yeah.
So we'll have lots of content, I think, from there. We'll go as much as we can.
So much retro goodness.
Yes. Mm-hmm. And then you can have a look at what we come up with and then book your trip in your own time sometime this summer. It'd be well worth your time going out there. So
definitely
a bit of a road trip to Cambridge at the weekend. And the first time I've left my local area since it's about February last year. And anyway, so I shall be bringing my Surface Go, and my Surface. So we'll and my Surface Duo. Richard can have a play on my Surface.
Oh, I can have a fondle. Fantastic. Yes, that'd be great.
Which has just got the new update as well. The June update just came out, Not Android 11, unfortunately.
So here's a question about the Duo. Have the current pricing seems to be interesting, to say the least. In the US, I don't know if the sale's still going on, but the US, it was temporarily, I think, on sale at the Microsoft Store for $699, I think, or $649.
Yeah, it didn't get that low in the UK.
And yet, the UK store, it was going for £1,100.
Yeah, they did. It is an odd. Yeah, it is a bit strange.
That was quite a big difference.
Yeah, I did see a lot of people saying they wanted to try and get Windows 11 run on the Duo. I thought, no, I don't bother.
Exactly. Well, I guess Windows and ARM. You could get the ARM-based version. You could probably
with Android apps.
Yeah. Well, I mean, wasn't that one of the things? I can't remember who it was saying that Windows and ARM will probably run Android apps better than Windows on Intel because it doesn't need to have the whole bridge thing go. It will just work. It's something I've read somewhere, but I guess until we know more about the developer story, it's all a bit up in the air.
Yeah, it absolutely is. Yeah. Well, we'll probably all come back with mini computer systems from our trip to Cambridge next week instead of.
I'm going to make you all buy a Pi 400, definitely.
Yeah. So I want one of those big hard disk, those Winchester hard disk systems. I want one of those.
You don't want a Winchester.
Well, I believe you can get them for you can get library editors for the DX7.
Well, there we go. And Gary, I think
you don't want a Winchester, you want a Phoenix.
I think Gary at the National Museum of Computer and Bletchley Park, they will fire up some tape-based machines first and send some punch tape through, especially for you.
Oh,
hey. Excellent. Well, I want some computers that will match up with my retro vintage music equipment. So yeah, I need that ZX. I need that to emulate the DX7 editor for the x86. But anyway, that'll be next week's show. So Richard, where can we find you?
You can find me mostly on Twitter at Richard_Speed.
And Gary, where can we find you?
And again, mostly on Twitter at Gary with 2 R's WMA.
Yeah, and I'm on Twitter at ISDixon, where you can comment on the things I've spent very little time on and just ignore the stuff I put a lot of effort into. That'll be fine. The way of the internet. But anyway, so we'll be back same time, same place next week, and follow our tweets from Cambridge at the weekend.
Yeah, that'd be good.
Cheerio.